Well, we're about halfway through the Zags season now, 14-0, now in conference play, coming off of really a tight one down in Moraga versus St. Mary's. And I'll tell you what, we just need to kind of get past the fact of this isn't Gonzaga teams of the past, even the teams that held the number one ranking.
Yeah.
The WCC is a good conference this year, but this Gonzaga team is on a whole nother level. And what you're starting to hear from national media, fans alike, is will this Gonzaga team run the table? You know, they want to know. I don't think that the conversation is will they be undefeated once the NCAA tournament comes around. Could a team get them? Of course. Every Division I basketball team is very talented. They still play San Francisco, St. Mary's, and BYU again. All of that being said, for this Gonzaga team to lose, it would be a monumental upset. And so I don't think we're talking about will they be undefeated going into the NCAA tournament as much as can they run the table moving forward. And I'll tell you what, I think that the blueprint was kind of laid versus St. Mary's this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the two games they had versus Pepperdine and St. Mary's, and I think both teams kind of rolled out the same game plan. St. Mary's was able to maintain and commit to that game plan for a little bit longer, and it definitely brought up some questions. I mean, this is a week, if you're a Zags fan, it felt like you watched the Zags struggle.
Yeah.
And what's so impressive about this team is they still end up with a 25-point and a 14-point win against Pepperdine and St. Mary's, even when it felt like they were struggling. But back to what these teams did. It started Pepperdine. Pepperdine, for 15 minutes in the first half, did not give up a transition bucket. They made sure they got back, and they're going to slow this team down. And eventually Gonzaga was able to just get past that and stretch it out, end up scoring 95 points in that game. And then you go to St. Mary's, and St. Mary's grimied the game up. They slowed it down. They've been one of the slowest teams in the country in terms of pace of play, and they were able to dictate that. And we saw Gonzaga struggle with that a little bit. They lost their 85-point streak. That was something, obviously, I think a lot of Zag fans wanted to see how long it could go. But, you see the way they played. It was exactly what they wanted to do. They gave themselves a chance in that. And how did they do it? They, again, built on what Pepperdine did. They didn't give up transition buckets. But they really took away the cuts that this Gonzaga team does. This Zags team has been just unreal from inside the arc this year. I think coming in conference play, I want to say they were like 65% or 69% inside the arc. And their starters were shooting 59% from the field overall. So what St. Mary's did, they took away those cuts. They took away the easy 2-point buckets. And they asked this Zags team to shoot. And for a long time that game, it worked.
Yeah, this team's lucky that this St. Mary's team is not what they've been in the past offensively.
Sure.
They are challenged offensively, don't have a whole lot of shooters. I'll tell you what, though, if you hold Gonzaga to 73 points, a team like a Baylor, of course, a team like a Kansas, a team that you're going to run into really from the round of 32 on, they're going to be able to do that. And so I think that it's a copycat league. You're going to see every team try to essentially run this at Gonzaga. And really what they said is this. You saw Corey Kispert get more open looks than teams have been comfortable with since really like that Virginia game where, Corey goes off and all of a sudden teams have said, we got to take that away. Well, I know that his numbers for the year are crazy, but you're going to give guys a 3-point shot over a wide open layup any day of the week. And you saw Gonzaga actually get uncomfortable. Nemhard missed a wide open layup because it was one of those like, whoa, like I haven't been here all game. I don't know what to do. There's got to be someone here.
Yeah.
There's no one there. So I think you're going to see teams commit to that. It's one thing to game plan for. It's another when you get down 20 the first 5 minutes.
Sure.
And we've seen teams do that we're going to slow the game down. First time out comes, you're down 20. Oh, God, we got to run. And it's kind of like football. You got to keep running the ball, stick to the game plan. You don't just start airing it out. So we'll see if teams can stay true to that. I don't think any WCC team, I think that any team in the WCC this year at their best cannot beat Gonzaga's worst game.
Agreed.
I really do believe that. That's no knock on any WCC team.
No.
It's just that you hear about these tier 1 wins. Gonzaga is a tier 1A competition.
Yeah.
And so I am, though, a little bit concerned about once this team gets into the tournament, I think back to the Brandon Clark year, the Texas Tech year, to relive that a little bit. I thought that team had a real shot at winning the tournament.
Yeah.
They were playing really well in WCC play. And then they run into a Texas Tech team in the Elite Eight, and they just ran into a buzzsaw. And I think what I worry about is people are always on the WCC about, Gonzaga's got to get out of the WCC. They don't play anyone until the tournament. I think the WCC is better than they get credit for.
It's the 5th or 6th best conference this year.
Yeah, but they're going to run into a team in the Sweet 16, Elite Eight, that's able to execute defensively what St. Mary's did.
Sure.
And hit some shots that they couldn't, and that worries me.
Yeah, it has to be a concern, right? I mean, if a team that's more talented can roll out that same game plan, we've seen it. But as you said, I mean, the WCC is a copycat league, so Gonzaga is going to see this game plan numerous more times before they get to the tournament. So the hope there is, obviously, I think Mark Few is one of the best coaches in the country. So, hopefully by that time rolls around, they've seen this. They can game plan for a team that wants to slow them down and take away those transition buckets, take away those cuts. But it's going to take some work, and it's not guaranteed, right? I mean, if you run into that team that has the length, they have the athleticism. You mentioned, obviously, Baylor and Kansas. I think the Texas as well, a team with big, athletic bigs.
Shaka's going to play them really well.
Great guards and a great coach. And Shaka, I mean, there are some matchups out there that it's March Madness. Fans are not. March Madness is still the craziest sporting event in sports. It's just the unbelievable happens there. So we can definitely see it. Obviously, is this team still a favorite? Yes. We're not alone in that. You go on Twitter, just about every college basketball insider is on board with the Zags versus the field at this point. But you know what, man? I mean, we've seen it. This, like I said, it feels like a week where they've struggled. They still pull out wins, but it does make you question what happens when that tournament comes.
I think you're going to see that narrative change if Baylor continues to win.
Sure.
They had a big win versus Texas Tech. They play Kansas this week.
Yeah.
As they get more ranked wins as the year goes on, I do think that they'll get bit at least once in conference play. But if they don't,
hard not to in a conference like that.
If Baylor doesn't, and let's just say both of these teams are undefeated going into the NCAA tournament, I think you see that narrative change a little bit on which team is better, because we like, even though both teams beat Kansas, we like the recent behavior that we'll see from
Sure.
Baylor. All that being said, the NCAA actually changed one of their ways that they bracket, they announced this week, and they're going to be doing an S curve where, the top number one overall seed plays the bottom 2 seed, but then they play the top 3 seed and it S's down. I actually think that makes it a bigger deal to be the number 1 overall seed. And so if Gonzaga is going to be that, they could probably afford one loss to be a 1 seed. But if they want the number 1 overall seed, they're going to have to be undefeated.
Yeah.
And I think that makes it a big deal, because if you look at the bracketology right now, their 2 seed would be Creighton. And I'll tell you, a 2 seed Creighton is very different than a 2 seed Michigan, for instance. And
Definitely.
so you don't get the advantage regionally or travel speaking that you normally do as a top seed. But having a team like Creighton as your number 2 would be an enormous deal to avoid, that Texas, buzzsaw we would see in like the Elite Eight.
Yeah, that is huge this year. I mean, previous years, it was based off of geographical location, right? They want to keep you close. If there's ever a year where that didn't matter, it's, of course, this year where we're more than likely not going to see fans. And if we do, it's going to be a very limited number depending on, how things progress over the next couple of months here. But having that S curve is definitely huge for them. This team is so good. And, realistically, your bottom 2 seed is going to be anywhere from the 7th to 9th ranked team in the country. And I think anybody would agree that those teams are not going to run with Gonzaga. No matter who's in that 7 and 9 spot, it's not going to happen. And teams that are the true concern are realistically those top 5, maybe top 6 teams that can give them a run. So that's huge for them this year. And it's going to obviously get them deeper in the tournament before they hopefully see one of those buzzsaws like you're saying. And it just brings to question, obviously, we haven't seen a team run the table all the way through. I mean, even the Kentucky team was at 2014, 2015, ended at 38-1. I mean, it's very difficult.
It was Indiana, I believe, back in like the 70s was the last to do it.
It's very difficult to run all the way through. So this definitely helps them in that case and bolsters their chances. And Mark Few's going to have them ready for the tournament. So, let's not sit here and say that, we're pulling back off the Zags or anything. Both you and I know how good this team is. But it is fair to, kind of look at what's happened this week and just ask, how are they going to adjust to it?
Yeah, it felt like a game on Saturday that former Gonzaga teams would have lost down 10 in the first half. You said, well, here we go. And this team's just that talented. But we want to hear from you. Do you think that Gonzaga will go undefeated? I think the conversation is real. Let us know down in the comments where you see Gonzaga possibly stumbling, or do you think that they will run the table? So it's going to be very interesting to watch. Mark Few has said that they are planning on adding one more non-conference game to the schedule. So that will obviously be one of the chances they would have to stumble, but we will see moving forward and see if Gonzaga and this Mark Few coach team can run the table in college basketball.